Hey guys, hope you guys are all doing good, having a good weekend. I want to thank you for tuning in today to my very first episode of Welcome Home with Matt. Don't flip out. In this episode today, we're going to talk about a couple different things that you're going to want to take note of when you're buying a flip house. So there's going to be about six things that we're looking for when you're looking to buy something that you think is a flip. And I know I know most of us think we know what a flip house is already, but just in case you don't, a flip house is going to be any kind of house where someone buys it for a short term period and then they are going to sell it again real quick afterwards. So sometimes they will just buy the house and sell it as is without doing any repairs or renovations. And then sometimes they will take the time to kind of do some repairs. Typically, when there are repairs done on a flip house, generally most people will do a pretty good job, but sometimes you get people that are just kind of looking to rush and they will, just kind of do some minor things to repair the place before they put it on the market again. So first things first, how do you know what you're looking at is actually a flip house? One good way to determine that is going to be how long it was on the market for. So when you're first looking at the house, you're going to see, if it's only been on the market for a couple weeks or a couple months, typically more a couple months that they're going to be is the time scale that most flippers are going to be working on. That's a good indication that they could just be looking to flip the home. It's not necessarily meaning that they're flippers, but it definitely is leaning a little more towards that. Um, After that, if you start to see kind of just repairs done throughout the home, like noticeable cosmetic repairs, new counters, new carpets, anything like that, where it looks like maybe they just slapped a fresh coat of paint on, that might be something that kind of indicates what you're looking at as a flip house. So these tips I'm going to give you today, they're being used as an example towards purchasing a flip house, but I mean, they can definitely be used for almost any property that you're going to be looking at or buying. So, definitely good tips to just have in case, regardless of what kind of home you're looking for. So, let's jump right into this. So, the first thing that you're going to want to look for when you're first going into a home is definitely going to be the structural aspect of it. That is going to pretty much be the basement. So, you're going to want to go check out the basement. You're going to want to make sure that there's a lot of things you're going to want to see in the basement there. And you're going to want to kind of keep track of all your senses as you're going through the basement there. When you first enter into the basement, one thing that's really going to be important is being able to kind of notice any off smells that might be down there. That can definitely be if you an indicator that there's something going on. So you could have if you have any mold or mildewy smells in the basement, that's a huge negative. You could potentially have had water damage in there at some point if that's the case. So even if there's not standing water in there, but there is kind of a moldy smell, that might not be such a great thing, and you might want to investigate a little further into that. Then um, I would say that after that, you'd want to kind of check just around the base of the foundation. So you're going to look for cracks, chips in the wall, any kind of indication that the wall might be buckling. If you kind of measure from the base of the wall all the way up to the top, if it's kind of a straight line, then you might be good. But if you notice there's maybe like a half an inch to an inch of kind of like leeway in there, then you're going to be, that might be something you want to hire an inspector, a basement and foundation inspector, and kind of investigate that a little bit further too. That could indicate that the foundation's starting to buckle, which can obviously not be such a good thing. Basement foundation repairs are definitely going to be one of the more expensive problems you're going to have in a home. So, I mean, you don't want to quote it, but it could run up into the tens of thousands of dollars. So that's something you're going to want to investigate right away and make sure the house you're buying has a good foundation, definitely. So, the next thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the attic, and that is something that is definitely woefully under investigated when people are purchasing homes. I would say there's a lot of people that just won't check the attic out. So you're definitely gonna want to get up in that attic or at some point, whether it's on your first showing, second showing, or maybe even when you have when the inspector gets there. But that's, if you can investigate it before you put an offer on the home, that's going to be your best bet. So I would definitely say get up there as soon as possible. Check out that attic. Couple things to look for in the attic. So you're going to want to kind of, first of all, you're going to want to kind of see if there's any breezes in there when you first enter into the attic. If you feel kind of a draft, that might not be such a good thing. It could mean there's exposure to the outside, which might indicate a siding or potentially a roof problem, but that's going to be something you're going to want to check on the outside as well. While you're in the attic, you're going to want to also investigate for any kind of wires being frayed, any kind of indication of pests, whether there's droppings from mice or bugs, cockroaches up there, anything like that. And insulation should be all pretty much intact, not torn through. And anything that just indicates that anything's out of the ordinary, pretty much. So you're going to want to make sure there's no draft. You're going to want to make sure everything is intact, including the wiring and the insulation. And you're going to want to make sure that there's no pests running around up there. So part of the attic inspection, I would say, is also kind of checking out the roof when you're walking into the home. So when you first get to the home, and you want to check it out, I would definitely take a little little walk around the property. Check out the foundation on the outside as well. Check out the roof. Make sure that there's no noticeable signs of damage or holes in there. Maybe overlapping on the shingles isn't always a good thing. Just anything like that to kind of indicate that there's no, just to show that there's no problems kind of leading from the roof into the attic. Um, so the next thing we're going to want to take a look at on our flip house property is, and this one is definitely a big one, is going to be our plumbing. So our plumbing is going to, most people will not look at this, but there's a lot of issues with some of the plumbing traps, especially people will use under their sinks. So I've seen this in tons of flip houses, honestly, where they will do a bunch of cosmetic repairs up top in the kitchen, and then you on the sink, new counters, new sink itself, new faucets, new lighting, all that. But then when you actually open the cabinets and take a look below the sink, there's what's typically called a S trap in there, and there's a picture of it right now. So a lot of people will keep S traps or not realize the danger of S traps, but one thing that's wrong with S traps is basically what the trap does is traps water in there. It holds the water in there so that gas cannot come back through the pipes back into the home. So with S traps, what they have a tendency to do is they kind of have a tendency to siphon some of that water out of the trap, which means that sewer gas can actually start to leak back into the home, and even potentially vermin, cockroaches, mice, rats, anything like that. There's the potential for all that kind of stuff with S traps. So typically what you're going to want to do is make sure that P traps are installed with an air admittance valve on the bottom portion of it. So basically what that does is with the airflow, it kind of keeps the trap intact. It breaks the siphon on the trap so that water stays in the trap, and thus sewer gas and other vermin can't get back through up into the house. So I kind of illustrated. I'll put them on the video here. They kind of, both of the traps that you'll usually see. So there's the S trap and then the P trap, and you're going to typically want to make sure there's P traps underneath the sink. Any kind of plumbing issues beyond that, I would say go to a qualified contractor, a qualified plumber, for someone who's licensed, someone who knows what they're doing. But that's a quick kind of evaluation you can do on your own when you're looking into the house. You can definitely see if there's see if the correct traps on there. That's going to be really huge, and they could be potentially dangerous too if you don't have the correct trap on there. So definitely something to look forward to or look to for. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is kind of making sure that all the permits are pulled. That's going to be another huge thing that we're going to want to look at. Permits being pulled really just show that the house was all the building and the contracting and stuff was done correctly, that it was all approved by the municipality that it was being renovated in. So a lot of people will get the permits pulled, but sometimes people will kind of want to cut corners and not want to pay to have their do some of the work on the house, so they won't get their permits. Um, if there's any indication that the permits weren't pulled, I would definitely say that you're going to want to. That's going to be a red flag for you, pretty much. So when one way to really look into that is you can actually look in you can go online and you can look in the municipality. You can do a online search of the permits that would need to be pulled for that particular city or town or village or whatever, for the place you're buying, and you just kind of take a look to see if that address had any permits pulled. You can also actually look in there and see if the permits not only were pulled but whether they were approved as well. So that's gonna, if there a lot of work was done to the home and no permits were pulled, that's gonna be one thing you're gonna want to definitely look out for. Another quick indication that permits were not pulled, because this is just such a common problem that I've seen in many many homes, is that when you first go into a house and you walk into the kitchen, you will see on the walls in there will only be maybe one or two outlets when there will be maybe 10 or 15 feet of wall space. That's a huge red flag, because that means that permits were not pulled. And again, you can see that all the time, especially in flip houses. You'll see maybe one or two outlets on there. There needs to be, per code for most municipalities, there needs to be one outlet per every 4 linear feet of wall space in the kitchen. So if there is not one outlet per every 4 feet or less throughout the kitchen, then that's going to be one thing you're going to definitely want to take. Definitely that's going to be not a great thing. So you're going to want to look into that a little bit more and see if the permits were pulled for other things. But that's a huge red flag right there, and that's one of the more common problems you're going to see with flip houses not pulling their permits. So for our next tip, we are going to be looking at all the mechanicals throughout the house. So that is going to include the furnace, water heater, water softener, and the AC unit. So and in this category, we'll also include maybe some of the appliances in there too, dishwasher, refrigerator, things like that. So that's, if none of these things are new, if they're all kind of old and dated, then that isn't necessarily bad. These are probably some of the lesser, expensive things, less costly things to have to pay for when you're first buying a home. But having them installed, especially the mechanicals, a little bit newer, so the furnace, water heater, and the water softener, it's definitely good to have those, and the AC as well. If there is a central air, you're going to want those to be a little bit newer. So that's going to be something that's definitely to look for, and not just flip houses, but any houses really. You're going to want to see that it has a little newer mechanicals in there. So just money you're not having to spend up front within the next few years of purchasing the home. So that's always a good thing to be on the lookout for. That's a pretty common one. A lot of people typically know about that, but that's something, especially when you're looking at flip houses that may potentially have a lot of other expensive issues. That's something that's especially important, and you don't want to forget to make sure all the mechanicals are up to date. So our final and last tip of the evening is going to be for, and this one may seem like the least worrisome, but this one is the one you're going to want to look out for the most. It's actually just the cosmetic issues of the house. So even though these may seem like kind of cheap little things, they can be indicative of a larger problem, of larger problems that may be wrong with the house. With cosmetic issues. So those are going to include kind of, just shoddy paint jobs, trim not being, nailed in properly, uneven flooring, floors that might, you have like doors that might not close all the way, might look a little off when they're hung. These kinds of things are going to be really bad. And honestly, they're going to be some of the first things you notice when you walk into the home, but they're just going to be something that you want to take a look for. Definitely notice ahead of time, because even though some of these repairs are not as expensive as some of the other repairs, such as, like the foundation, mechanicals, plumbing, stuff like that, you're going to want to it's you're going to want to definitely still take a look at those, because they could still, if someone didn't take the time to put trim on correctly, or paint the house correctly, if it looks just really kind of crappy, then it might mean that they didn't put really as much of the time or effort into some of the other things. So, and again, that's going to be one of the first things you notice in a house. And when you do find flip houses that have issues, a lot of them will be first discovered by looking at the cosmetics, and then you'll find later down the road that a lot of the other issues will be there present as well. So I mean, when you're, if you're a flipper and you're taking the time to, do a really good job and make sure all the major stuff is completed, typically those people will also, make sure and take the time to complete all the little things too. Make sure everything's done properly. The painting looks good. It's not all over the place. You have the trims nailed in correctly. The floors aren't uneven. The flooring's put in properly. You're just those are going to be some things that you're going to want to take a look at, and that's going to be one of the one of the more important things as well. So yeah, so I hope you guys found these tips pretty useful. I know a lot of these are just going to be tips that you're going to want to use when you're buying a home in general. Maybe not necessarily a flip house, but these tips become especially important when you're looking to buy a flip house, because you can have, they might have done some work that just wasn't as great, pretty much. So you're going to want to make sure that everything's done properly, and you're not buying, exactly what you're getting. Then you're not buying something that's going to be run down, or maybe even look really nice, but then has a bunch of issues down the line that are going to be really expensive for you. With this seller's market the way it is right now, trying to buy a house can be definitely kind of a hassle, and you can spend a lot more than you're wanting to on the home. So why spend more, a few years down the line when you discover a major foundation issue or something? I mean, you don't want to have to do that. So I definitely hope these tips were helpful for you guys. A lot of flippers. That being said, a lot of flippers will definitely do a really good job. With what they do, they will put the time and effort in to make sure that everything's done properly, and also that it looks good. So my buddy Garrett actually does flipping in the city of Milwaukee and the greater Milwaukee area. He does it under his company. It's called Cobalt Gazebo. So you guys should definitely check them out. It's cobaltgazebo.com. He's got a bunch of different houses that he's done. So been doing it for years. They look absolutely phenomenal. He really takes the time to make sure that everything looks good, and everything's structurally sound as well. So you guys should definitely take a look at some of his work. So next video is going to be next Sunday, and we are going to be talking about the 5 top tips for first-time home buyers, and just kind of walk you through the home buying process, so you know exactly what to expect when you're first looking to purchase a home. It can be kind of intimidating when you're trying to buy a house for the first time. So we're going to take a look at some of those things, and in the meantime, if you guys could please like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys coming out and watching this video with me tonight, and I will see you guys all next week. Thank you.